Well, we tackled Doom last time, so it's only fair we tackle the very video game franchise that inspired it to begin with. Well, what's up again there, guys? Brian here, D3 Topics here to share, one of my worst to best tier list style ranking videos to share with you guys today. Now, I had a lot of fun actually doing my tier list ranking of all of the Doom games that have ever been made. So I thought it would only be fair that we now tackle Wolfenstein, which, to be fair, Wolfenstein and Doom are really the two main first-person shooter franchises that really get compared the most to each other. So, yeah, I thought that was a really pretty solid idea, and that's what we're going to do right here. So if you do happen to enjoy this video by the end, make sure you give this video a thumbs up, and make sure you smash the subscribe button if you haven't already, just so you can keep track of me and all my future videos. And remember, if you guys have any ideas for any rankings or reviews or discussions you'd like me to go over, please let me know what you would like to see in the comments down below, and I will try to get it up as soon as I can. So the funny thing, it is interesting that Wolfenstein... The Wolfenstein that we know as Wolfenstein 3D actually came out in 1992, and Doom came out in 1995. But I didn't realize this till I started doing research. But there was actually some, the Wolfenstein franchise has actually been around since the 1980s, 1981, which I didn't even know that. So that is pretty crazy. And if we actually go to the list here, I think there's a solid collection of games now. Unlike Wolfenstein, I actually have played, unlike Doom, I actually have played probably all but 3 of these games. Or at least I've tested them out to various degrees. So we're just going to go in order. It's a pretty standard list from S, A, B, C, D, and never played. Let's just get the ones that I never actually got to play. And that's really these two. Yeah, these two games came out in 1981. I actually looked at a couple of screenshots of those games, and wow, those are very, very primitive for even for the early '80s. What else? What haven't I played? And I know I have not played this one, Cyber Slot, strictly because it was VR, and I'm just not into VR gaming personally. I've never been a fan of it outside of maybe Beat Saber. So it's really those three. Everything else I have tested out. So we'll just go in order. And I'll just get my initial thoughts on each of them. So starting off with the very, 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 very first Wolfenstein 3D, which came out in 1992. I'm going to put that in B. I will say this. It's a very simple premise. There's not much of a plot. I think a lot of levels are... They look very similar. If you actually play through the whole game, there's not a variety of locations because this is taking place in a prison. So that does kind of hurt it because it's not very creative, which is why I will say this. I do think that the very first Doom is leagues better than the first Wolfenstein 3D. But it did kind of set the standards, and I guess it is it's fun to kind of play a little bit if you were to try playing it today. And that's going to be followed up by the sequel, which is Wolfenstein Spear of Destiny, which is a slight improvement. It's not a major improvement. It still kind of plays nearly exactly the same. Visually, it kind of looks the same. It plays very similar. So those two are really, really close. So that's where I would put the very first two Wolfensteins in that case. Next, I'm actually going to go with this one, Wolfenstein, that I believe came out in 2009. This was a good update version. It was... I would say that this is the perfect game to put it's in my opinion. I think Wolfenstein 2009 is the perfect game that kind of bridges the original Wolfenstein games to the newer, more recent ones. I think that's a good comparison. I think that the story is very, very standard. It's not very expensive. It's had a lot of lore. It has a premise much like the original games did, but the maps are a little bit more open, and it allows you to explore. And there's a lot of places to explore in these individual isolated maps, and they're a pretty good size too. So but I did enjoy it. I just didn't think it was anything amazing or groundbreaking. But I do think when you look at the journey, this kind of fits the perfect bridge game. Next, Wolfenstein RPG. Oh, look. I loved RPGs, specifically JRPGs, And there are some cases where you can add RPG elements to other franchises that normally aren't RPGs. And sometimes it can work. In the form of Wolfenstein, this did not work. I did not like this at all. There's just some franchises that should just stick to what they're good at and just not try to experiment. And this, I did not like this one at all. Next, we have Wolfenstein. Like, let's get the good ones out of the way. Wolfenstein: The New Order. This is absolutely S tier. Some will say this is probably the best Wolfenstein, and I can understand that. This is easily one of the best first-person shooter games that's come out in the last 15 years. It really did bring the Wolfenstein concept into the modern age, or technically the HD age, and actually add a fully fleshed out story, which I will say this, that is the one department that Wolfenstein absolutely stomps Doom in. Like, I just recently got a chance to finish beating Doom, The Dark Ages, and that had probably the best story in any Doom game I've ever played, and I'll be sure to get my review of that when I get around to it. But Wolfenstein, at least at this point with these games, has always had a much better story. It's got a better cast of characters. There's more character development. It's just no question. These newer games have a far better. It's way better, way better. B.J. Blazkowicz, very badass character who's not generic. There's layers to his character. And I would say that very much has continued on into Wolfenstein: The New Colossus. Now, depending on who you talk, they'll swap this. Sometimes they'll say The New Order is better. Sometimes they'll say The New Colossus is better. For me personally, I'm going to give New Colossus a slight edge. Simply because I think it gets a little bit more personal for BJ. And there's a couple more shocking scenes. And there's... I don't even want to spoil it. There's just a couple of moments there just make me laugh. It's just like there's a lot of moments in New Order that also make me laugh too. But like there's like one key moment in the New Colossus that's just like, you know, just because that scene is in here, I'm gonna give it the slight edge. But both of these are without question like must-own titles. If you haven't played Wolfenstein: The New Order or Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus, you need to. Like even after all these years, these games are still very fun to play. Unfortunately, that was not so much the case with the follow-up with Wolfenstein: The Young Blood. I really did not like this one. It felt like it just didn't work. Story-wise, it wasn't very strong. It was very much pushed towards co-op, which can work if you can find someone to play with. I, unfortunately, during my time, did not have fun playing this. And I always felt that this game was merely a transitional game into like Castlevania 3, which we still have not gotten. And it has been 6 years since this game came out. The two daughters are not very likable. They're pretty much a couple of frat boys and women in little girl bodies. They're characters that should have a much bigger presence that aren't. And the story is just not very good. I mean, it's nice that it's set in Paris, and then they add all these extra gameplay elements that I just think that had you stripped that out, it wouldn't have really changed the game. I think you just put it in there to make the game longer than it needed to be, and it really wasn't all that fun. So it wasn't like the worst game I've ever played, but it's easily the weakest one. And technically, it is like the last Wolfenstein game that we've ever actually had. I mean, technically, you had like the Cyber Pilot one that came out like... They both came out in 2019, but like this left a bad taste in my mouth, and I so desperately hope that Bethesda gives us a true Wolfenstein 3. Like if we're gonna like complete the trilogy, like give us one more game, please. However, I feel the complete opposite about Wolfenstein Old Blood. Now this kind of serves as a prequel to The New Order, and for a game as short as this was way better than it had any right to be. I was shocked of how fun this was. I mean, even though it's kind of set in the world, its gameplay style gives it a lot of its own unique identity. This was a fun game to play. There were a number of game mechanics that I didn't expect to work as well as they did. And for a game as short as it was a lot of fun to play. So that's where I would put that one. Next, I would put this Wolfenstein, and this one is also actually surprisingly good. I think I had a lot of fun with that Wolfenstein, which feels a little bit different. but it's still, and it still carries the essence of a true Wolfenstein game. It was just a lot of fun. It was a much better version than what we got in Wolfenstein 2009. And I believe the last game on here is Wolfenstein Enemy Territory. Now this, I only really got to test it for a little bit when it first came out, but this is an old game. This is pretty much a online only multiplayer shooter. So basically what it is if you took like the Call of Duty games that came out like in the PlayStation 2 era, and you stripped out the campaign and you just had the multiplayer, that's pretty much what this is. And I'm not a big fan of that, to be fair. Like, I mean, I guess if you have like a good group of friends, I'm just wondering, like, I would probably put it like right there. Like, I really don't, like, I'm not a big fan of only online multiplayer games, but like for this to have tempted this back then is really ambitious. But like nowadays, it is easily something that I would not even recommend anyone try unless you're really curious. So that is my ranking of all of the Wolfenstein video games that I've had a chance to play. Now, if you've had a chance to play some of these games, I would love to know, what would your ranking be? You can share your ranking with me in the comments down below. And like always, thank you guys for watching. You're awesome, and I'll catch you guys next time.